Okay, we'll now sing our national anthem. Stand on guard for thee, O Canada, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. During the silence, we will remember those who have passed on since we have last gathered together. We will remember them. Color Sergeant, deposit colors.
Deposit colors. Color party, right, color. Color party, quick, color.
Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Haybart, Chair of the Billy Bishop Museum Board of Directors. Thank you all for being here today at the 21st Honoring Our Local Veterans Ceremony here at Branch 6 at the Royal Canadian Legion. We're here on the traditional land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which comprises the Chippewas of Nawash and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and the Saugeen First Nation. I knew I'd get that wrong. It's important to remember those who were here before and to work together now to foster better relations between all our peoples. This event, it's always dear to me. It reminds me of the sacrifices made by so many people over the years in the two great wars and everything else since then. Not just the men and women who served and those who continue to serve today, but their families as well. We sometimes forget there was more than just the ones on the front lines. I also continue to be struck by the humility of those we honor and all the other veterans and serving members that I speak to. They figure they were just doing their job and didn't want any fuss. I know it often takes us a lot of persuasion to get someone to agree to be honored. Well, to you who served today or served in the past, it may be just a job. To me, it's more than that. Whether you do your duty at home or abroad, in a war zone or not, you're still taking on something that most of us won't. I expect you get tired sometimes of all the thank you for your service comments, and you don't want any fuss. Oh, I should have told you to sit down. You don't want any special recognition, just like my friend's son, who was wounded in Afghanistan, and he didn't want to accept the sacrifice medal he was awarded. His mom tells me he didn't think he deserved it. Well, you know, he does deserve that medal, just as all of you, the ones we honor today, the ones we've honored in the past, the ones we'll honor in the future, the ones who serve today. You all deserve our thanks. And that's why we're here today, to give you the recognition you deserve, to say merci, miigwech, thanks. Now, to get to the main reason we're here today, I turn things over to Dave Alexander, who's chair of our Veterans Committee and vice chair of the Billy Bishop Museum Board of Directors. He'll say a few words and present this year's honored veterans. He'll be assisted by Museum Director Emily Jolliffe and board member and Veterans Committee member Wayne Bruce.
Veterans, viewers, and friends, welcome to this year's Honoring Our Local Veterans. We are pleased to be back at Branch 6 Royal Canadian Legion for this event and having it televised on Rogers TV. This is the 21st edition of this program, in which we have honored close to 200 local veterans from Bruce and Grey counties. On this occasion, we have marked the 105th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme. In fact, two of our posthumous recognitions today include Private George Grindley and Gunner Alan Bishop, who were killed in action during this battle. They will be the subject of this year's They Served for Us memorial markers, which will soon be erected in Jervis Bay Memorial Park. A special word to our Afghanistan veterans. Even though it is only 7 short years since Canada officially ended its mission in Afghanistan, we value what you did there and thank you for your service. Veterans and friends, it's a great privilege to introduce this year's participants of Honoring Our Local Veterans. There is no doubt that this group of veterans we will recognize today have contributed much to make this country great. They are a diverse group, having served with different branches of the armed forces in different locales around the world. They left their civilian lives and loved ones behind to embark upon an uncertain journey from which they were not assured they would return. One thing they do have in common was a commitment and a desire to serve their country. This theme will become very evident as we introduce each of our honorees today. I should mention that the men that are in front of you today, they are either veterans or they are families of the posthumous recognitions that we're making today. Gunner William Allen Bishop enlisted with the 25th Battery, 7th Brigade, Canadian Field Artillery on June 16, 1915. He completed training in Canada at Ottawa, Berryfield, and Valcartier before embarking for the United Kingdom. Gunner Bishop arrived in England on August 18, 1915. The 7th Brigade Canadian Field Artillery was deployed with the Canadian Corps in France in time for the Battle of Somme in September of 1916. The unit was ordered to support a general attack near Courcelette on September 26, 1916. According to Bishop's circumstances of death register, he joined another gunner and officer with the object of getting into the enemy line to observe. The trio came under heavy shell fire and Gunner Bishop was severely wounded. His fellow artillerymen lost contact with him and a search party was sent out to look for Bishop, but they were unable to find a trace of him, as stated in a period newspaper report. Even though family and friends held out hope that Gunner Bishop may still be alive, he was later presumed to have died. Since Alan Bishop has no known grave in France, his name was inscribed on the Vimy Memorial. He is also listed on the University of Toronto's First World War Roll of Service and the Owen Sound Legion Institute's Great War Plaque. Fellow soldier Thurwood Fraser wrote a letter to the grieving parents of Alan Bishop about the death of their son. Quote, "I know what a blow it must have been to you. He was young and his life full of promise. Yet it is such lives this war is taking all the time. It is reaping a harvest of the young before their time." End quote. Could we please offer a moment of silence for Alan Bishop's service and sacrifice? Sergeant Henry Cecil Davis enlisted on June 10, 1940 at Galt, Ontario, with the Highland Light Infantry of Canada. Sergeant Davis completed his basic training at Galt and Stratford. He then transferred to Cove Field Barracks, Quebec City, for infantry weapons training in late 1940. Sergeant Davis was at Camp Debert, Nova Scotia, until July 21, 1941, and from there he embarked for the United Kingdom, landing at Gorick, Scotland. Davis was a mortar specialist who was promoted to Lance Corporal in February of 1943. He became a corporal in July 1944 and was promoted to Lance Sergeant the following October. In December, he attained the rank of full sergeant. The Highland Light Infantry was attached to the 9th Brigade, 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. Sergeant Davis landed in Normandy at Bernier-sur-Mer as the HLI fought through Caen, Baron, the Bergerie Ridge, Falaise, Chambois, Boulogne, and Calais in 1944. He also participated in the Battle of the Scheldt and the battles of the Rhineland in late 1944 and early 1945. Most importantly to Sergeant Davis through his experience of war was meeting with his wife and lifelong partner, Mary. He was discharged on October 9, 1945. While proud of his military service, like many other returning soldiers, Henry never spoke of the hardships of war. He did mention the enduring friendships he made and the tremendous feeling of gratitude the soldiers received from the people of the towns and villages they liberated. Could we please offer a moment of silence for Henry Davis's service? Private George Henry Grinley enlisted with the 5th Field Ambulance, Canadian Army Medical Corps on November 26, 1914. He was part of a larger contingent from Owen Sound's St. John Ambulance Corps to enlist at the outbreak of the Great War. After training in Canada, the 5th Field Ambulance sailed aboard the SS Northland, arriving in the United Kingdom on April 29, 1915. Private Grinley was temporarily attached to the 2nd Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire Regiment in May of 1916, before being returned to the 5th Field Ambulance the following July. The 5th Field Ambulance would support the Canadian Corps during the Battle of the Somme. The Canadian Corps had begun its first major action at Courcelette on September 15th. According to Private Grinley's circumstances of death register, he was killed in nearby Warloy-Boulogne, France, 2 days later on September 17th. Since George Grinley has no known grave in France, his name was inscribed on the Vimy Memorial. He is also listed on the Chatsworth and Community Cenotaph and on the Great War plaque of the Owen Sound Collegiate Institute. When the 5th Field Ambulance first organized in Toronto, George wrote a letter to the local paper complaining about the poor quality of the food they were being served. His superiors caught wind of the complaint, and George was called up before them and, quote, received a very severe reprimand, end quote. Needless to say, afterwards, there was a marked improvement in the quality of the food. The source for this anecdote was the regimental history of the unit entitled Stretcher Bearers at the Double. Could we please offer a moment of silence for George Grinley's service and sacrifice? Corporal Carl Stacey Hopkins enlisted with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry on June 24, 1940. Corporal Hopkins was stationed in Stratford and Debort, Nova Scotia for infantry training. After completing his initial training, Corporal Hopkins embarked for Europe. The Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry were attached to the 2nd Brigade of the 1st Canadian Infantry Division, which landed in Sicily in July of 1943. Later that same year, the regiment fought on mainland Italy, participating in the Moro River Campaign. In 1944, the PPCLI took part in the offensive against the Hitler Line, west of Monte Cassino. In September of that year, the PPCLI helped breach the Gothic line at San Fortunato and Rimini as the 1st Canadian Corps continued its drive in northeastern Italy. In March of 1945, the regiment was transferred to Northwest Europe and took part in the liberation of the Netherlands. Corporal Hopkins participated in many of these battles. In October 1945, the regiment was returned to Canada, and Corporal Hopkins discharged on January 30th, 1946. Corporal Hopkins was nominated by his son Stacy, who said Carl did not talk much about his experiences of the Second World War. Could we please offer a moment of silence for Carl Hopkins' service? Corporal Brian Allen Kay joined the military at Toronto in 1986. From September to October 1986, Corporal Kay underwent basic training at Canadian Forces Base Cornwallis. From November 1986 to May 1987, he qualified as an airframe technician training at CFB Borden. From 1987 to 1993, he was deployed at CFB Trenton as part of the 8th Air Maintenance Squadron. Corporal Kay was then stationed at CFB Cold Lake, Alberta, with the 410 Tactical Fighter Operational Training Squadron from 1993 to 2006. In 1990, he was promoted to corporal. As an airframe and aviation technician, Corporal Kay worked on several aircraft, including the CC-137 and 707 Boeings, the CC-130 Hercules, and the CF-18 Hornet. Corporal Kay received a commander's commendation for finding a crack in the rib on the stabilator of a Boeing 707. Subsequently, given the discovery of this serious flaw, the entire fleet was grounded for further inspection and possibly saving many lives. Corporal Brian Kay was discharged in October of 2006. Brian has learned that dedication and hard work will always pay off and will get you noticed. He also recommends to never forget to play as hard as you work. Could we please offer a round of applause for Brian Kay's service? Private Herbert Hilliard McDonald enlisted for military service in 1943 at the young age of 17. His active service overseas with the Lincoln and Welland Regiment. The Lincoln and Welland Regiment was attached to the 10th Infantry Brigade as part of the 4th Canadian Armored Division. The 4th Canadian Armored Division first saw action during the Normandy Campaign in August of 1944. Private McDonald joined the Lincoln and Welland Regiment on September 22, 1944, and served with the regiment as it fought its way through Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. He was a Bren gunner in B Company who was said to be, quote, a fine marksman in action, end quote, and kept his weapon in, quote, excellent condition at all times, end quote. Private McDonald developed a close bond with a fellow soldier, Private Henry Riley. Riley was a foot taller than the diminutive McDonald, who stood only at 5 feet 2 inches. The two were nicknamed Mutt and Jeff by the other members of the regiment. Tragically, Private Riley was killed in action on January 26, 1945, during the hard-fought action to clear the island of Capels Ver. Private McDonald deeply grieved the loss of his close pal. A local history entitled Markdale at the Crossroads of Gray remarked that Herb was one of the, quote, unsung heroes of the Second World War, and he rarely mentioned his war effort. But his buddies in the Lincoln and Welland Regiment knew him to be a fine soldier who had earned his place in history, end quote. Could we please offer a moment of silence for Herb McDonald's service? Master Corporal John Stinson enlisted for military service right out of high school in November of 1982 at Kitchener, Ontario. He completed his basic training at Canadian Forces Base Cornwallis, followed by a driver training course. In 1985, Master Corporal Stinson took a basic para course. He was promoted to corporal in 1987, followed by Master Corporal in 1993. During his service, Master Corporal Stinson was with the 2nd Combat Engineer Regiment, 4th Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group Signal Squadron, 706 Communication Squadron, Canadian Forces School of Communication and Electronics, and Number 1 Canadian Signal Regiment. Master Corporal Stinson was posted to Petawawa, Base Borden, and Kingston. He served in Germany during the entirety of the Gulf War and was also deployed to Eritrea, Africa. Master Corporal Stinson was a signals technician and finished his TQ5 in November of 1986, qualifying as a radio operator. He completed the Combat Leadership course in 1988 and Facility Control Center in 1991. While on maneuvers in Germany, Master Corporal Stinson and a colleague pulled into a location in the middle of the night in their tracked personnel vehicle. At first light, they opened the back hatch and to their dismay found they were located in the middle of an American regiment. As a young paratrooper, Master Corporal Stinson jumped into Goose Bay, Labrador, for a 2-week training exercise in the middle of February. It was cold and the soldiers were confined to their tents for a 24-hour period. He offers this advice, quote, always work as a team, end quote. Could we please offer a round of applause for John Stinson's service? Even though the Billy Bishop Museum documents and perpetuates the memory of Air Marshal William Avery Billy Bishop, it is also part of our mandate to honor the service and sacrifice of all past serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces, including these veterans today. By extension, we also honor the service and sacrifice of current serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces. It is of particular interest to note that this group of veterans in front of us today has been awarded more than 30 medals, and this does not account for any other decorations or citations that may have been bestowed upon them. Thank you to Emily Joliffe for her efforts to research and produce these great panels. Thank you to Kirk Scott for the accompanying retrospective video of veterans who have been honored in the past. Thank you to the members of the Veterans Commemoration Committee for your organizational efforts. Thank you to Branch 6, Royal Canadian Legion, for hosting us. Thank you to Mark Perry and his crew from Rogers for televising this event. Thank you to Seasons Retirement Community and Veterans Affairs Canada for sponsoring HOLV. Thank you to our veterans' families for supporting them in this endeavor. Thank you to our veterans for your service to Canada, participating in this event, and especially for sharing your stories with us. Their plaques will be on display in our community at Seasons, Heritage Place Mall, and MP Alex Ruff's Owen Sound office. Finally, thank you, the viewer, for watching this special broadcast. We encourage veterans to complete a survey, which is available online at www.billybishop.org. Before I leave, I do have a message from Branch 6 Royal Canadian Legion President Patty Gibson Sargent. Thank you for the invitation to honoring our local veterans, but unfortunately I'm unable to attend as we are currently in Winnipeg for the Royal Canadian Legion's Dominion Convention. The remaining members of our executive are at the district convention held in Hanover today. To all the dignitaries, families, friends, and honorees here today, welcome to Branch 6. I know you will have a wonderful afternoon. Congratulations to those being honored today, and thank you for your service. One other quick note, we did have coffee, water, and tea over here, so I also need to extend a thanks to the Irene Surridge and the Ladies Auxiliary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, Emily, and Wayne, for that, and thank you for all the people that we honor today for the service done over the years. Now we have a couple of people that want to say something here. I understand Bruce Gray, Owen Sound MP, Alex Ruff, sends his regrets he's not able to be here today, but I understand his provincial counterpart, MPP Bill Walker, will present his message, Colonel Ruff's message, as well as his own. Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Mr. Byers. You do a great job, as always, for the sound, and truly an honor to be here on behalf of Alex and myself. And most would suggest I'm a pretty shy, quiet guy, so it's always good to have some extra words from our MP to fill in the gaps. I'll read Alex's letter. Thank you for inviting me to the 2021 annual Honoring Our Local Veterans event. I truly regret I'm not able to be in attendance for this year's presentation. It is an event of great importance, and I wish I was there to join you in honoring our local veterans in person. It is a privilege to recognize these 7 incredible veterans. Not only are these individual service members, but they are also community members and exemplary Canadians. 2 of whom are still with us today, and 5 who are no longer with us, but whose memory we honor as we remember them. I, like many of you attending today, either understand personally what it means to be a veteran or know someone that has served our country with respect, dignity, and valor. Each veteran and their families make incredible sacrifices. Service to Canada, while knowing that ultimately you could be asked to make the supreme sacrifice, is a weight that not every Canadian is willing to accept. Today I want to thank and honor all our local veterans as we recognize those specific 7. Please take time to reflect on and remember the lives of those who are no longer with us. Thank you for your sacrifice and courage during times of war, conflict, and peace. It is a great privilege to pay tribute to your service and your patriotism. Pro Patria, and lest we forget, Alex Ruff, Colonel, retired. And truly an honor for me to offer those words in his behalf. To everyone here in attendance today and to everyone listening, this is one of those events that I truly make an absolute priority to be at every single year. It is so important to make sure that we do, and I want to thank Kirk Scott for doing the video, to making sure, and to Rogers, of course, that we have a memory of this for years and the generations that will follow. To Gloria, Emily, Dave Alexander, and Wayne Bruce, thank you so much for all that you and your colleagues at the Billy Bishop do. To the family of Billy Bishop that are here today, again, a truly humbling experience to be part of this special ceremony. To all of the family members who are here on behalf of their loved ones, thank you so much. As Gloria, you have said, we always often think of course, of the people in the front lines, but without that family support and those who every day wonder what will happen to their loved ones, we owe you a gratitude as well. As I drove here today, I often do, I reflect on some of the veterans that I've had the privilege of knowing, and we talked about a little bit, those that we've lost in the last year. And 2 that came to mind very quickly. were Bob Alexander, Dave's father, who we've lost in the last little while, and also Art Haley. I was just there with Alex about a month ago in Wyerton. Art was a veteran, 105-year veteran, 105-year-old veteran, who they named a street after. The first time ever that the town of South Bruce Peninsula and former Wyerton named, and how fitting that is. I knew Art for many, many years, and he did so much for our community. And of course, right here in our own backyard of Owen Sound, we have Charlie Fisher, who I believe I just signed a card that will go out in November for his 106th birthday. Phenomenal. Again, and both of those gentlemen, not only are they class acts from their remembrance and their service, but they're just genuine, wonderful community people. I see in the crowd members of the Freedom Riders, and I want to again acknowledge all that you do and your ability to keep the memories of those who have served our community valiantly alive. We were just up at Corporal Jim Mitchell's park a couple of weeks ago, planting some bulbs, some tulip bulbs that were sent from Holland. And I see his dad, Bob, here, and of course Bob and Carol, always an honor to be in your presence and to say thank you once again to your son who made the ultimate sacrifice. You'll note on my lapel, obviously, the poppy, which I'm always honored to wear, but also a Vimy pin. And I think, Dave, you might have referenced, or Gloria, one of the two of you, Vimy. A few years ago, I was given the privilege to go to Vimy for the 100th anniversary. I went with Michael Harris, who happened to be a fellow MPP, but we didn't go because of anything to do with politics. We went because we both felt it was very important to us to go and show our respect and our pride for those who fought so that we have the freedoms, liberties that we have in Canada, in the greatest country in the world. And I have to share with you, as I stood there and watched and listened to that ceremony, the hair stood up on the back of my neck. The words that were shared in regard to the Canadians and the valiant effort of our heroes and those who served on our behalf to give us what we have today. And I'll never, ever forget that. So it's days like today that I say thank you to every single veteran, to those serving currently, right down to our cadets who will be our next members of service, and to all of you, those faithful family members, community members who, again, take pride and show up at events like today to honor those who have given their service to ensure that, again, we live in the greatest community, in the greatest province, in the greatest country in the world. Thank you so much. Lest we forget.
Thank you, Bill. Now, Owen Sound Mayor Ian Boddy.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everyone. I bring greetings on behalf of the citizens of Owen Sound, and thank you all for being in attendance. It's pretty nice to be back in a room all together once again, even though we're spread out after the last 18 months. I want to thank the gentlemen, obviously, that are being honored today for their service to the country and to the world, and making this a better place to live. When a young man or young woman signs up to join the military, it's their own decision, but it affects so many other people, the families, the friends that support them, but also have to carry some of that burden. You know, the people that worry about their kids not coming home, or worry about the kids that do come home from wars and from conflicts that don't return the same as they went away. They come home with scars and with memories of some of the horrors that they've seen, and we've heard some of the stories of those who did not want to discuss it when they came home. My father-in-law was overseas in the Second World War, and had nightmares and beat his wall every night for just about the rest of his life, just from that experience, but wouldn't talk about it. The other theme that I note that comes out a lot, maybe back up. This Tuesday, being October 26th, marks the 104th anniversary of Tommy Holmes being awarded his Victoria Cross. And we know the story of his heroics in Passchendaele. But part of that story is the heroics of his life after he came home, saving lives from somebody that had been in an explosion in a boat and those types of things. And so much of what we hear from our veterans is what great community members they are after. Maybe they're great community members and that's why they signed up, or they became great community members after they signed up. It's hard to argue one way or the other. Our local community, City of Owen Sound, is such a better place to live because of veterans and the efforts that they put in to help others, to help the community, to help each other. Bill talked about the Freedom Riders, and we see the work that the Freedom Riders do often, looking after their friends and their acquaintances and other Afghanistan veterans that are important to our community. So on behalf of Council, I thank everyone that is involved putting this together, the Billy Bishop Museum that has been great at maintaining our history and sharing it and recording it, and all those that help put today together and being able to share this with our community so that we all continue to learn from these stories, remember these stories, and that they're not forgotten, and how that affects us. I'm always very proud as a Canadian to think of how we're changing the world, how we're making the world a better place. When we send kids off to Afghanistan, why? It's the other side of the world. It doesn't affect us, but it does. Because we want to take what is Canadian, what makes us great, and share that and give others opportunity, give young women the opportunity to go to school somewhere on the other side of the world and become a better place. So on behalf of the city, I thank all the veterans that are awarded today and recognized, all of their families, everyone that goes through the process, and thank all of you for your commitment and how you make our community a better place. Thank you.
And now please welcome Rhonda Laws, representing a big supporter of our Veterans Program, Seasons Retirement.
Hello everyone, welcome, and thank you for being a part of today. I'm honored to be able to stand in front of you and stand here with gratitude and thanks from Seasons Retirement Home. Not only have some of our residents served, but many of them come back with stories of their family members, either being affected by history or having children who are now serving. I personally have been honored that I have got an amazing uncle who served in the Korean War, and luckily I've made the connection with the Billy Bishop Museum, and they are going to be able to record his story next month. So I'm honored with that. I'm also honored that I have a son-in-law who served 2 tours in Afghanistan and has returned and is dealing with his battles, but I'm honored to be able to call him my son-in-law. So on behalf of Seasons, I just want to say thank you to all who have served, all of you who have been affected by your families being amazing soldiers, and for Billy Bishop to be able to put together such an amazing event and capture these stories. Thank you.
We take so much for granted. We didn't used to have to do this all the time, micing the mic. It's the way it is, I guess, these days. Thank you for all those kind words, and gave us a lot to think about, I think, there. And if everyone gets a chance, go to Europe or anywhere else where there are the war memorials and the cemeteries and the monuments to all those who fell. I took a battlefields tour a few years ago, and it just ripped your heart to see, and it puts everything in perspective. And if you get a chance, talk to some of our people that have come back, not just wounded in the body, but wounded in the spirit, in the soul, those are the hidden wounds that we don't see, and everyone deserves our support in that way. Thanks for all of you for coming here today. We're just a little group, and it looks a little strange to see us all spaced out, but it was lovely to be able to gather in person here. Hopefully next year we'll have a full house. Thanks to Rogers, Dave, I always thank a whole lot of people, and I acknowledge, I second all those thanks. It's great to be able to put this out into the public so that they can see it. Thanks to all of our supporters, all of our sponsors, and all of you people. Before we finish the formal part of the ceremony here, I've got just a few things to mention. We have veteran surveys and tree of remembrance forms in the lobby there if you'd like to look under those. And beginning November 16th, come by the museum. It's going to be decorated as it might have been in Victorian times for Christmas. It's always awesome. Our volunteers put together, I don't know, all kinds of directions. It's pretty neat. Our popular and that goes right through December 17th. We have our Victorian Christmas teas again this year, November 24, December 1st, 8th, and 15th. And for details about these and other events we have, our exhibits, and just about the museum in general, things about how to volunteer with us, become a member of our board. Please, we're looking for board members. And volunteering, it's all there on our website, billybishopmuseum.org. And we're also planning our Fire and Ice fundraising gala for next May. Stay tuned. It's going to be super. Now, after the end of today's ceremony, please take the time to speak with the people we've honored, their families, the other people that are here. We have tea and coffee and water over there. Please follow the COVID protocols. It's very important. We're getting a hold on this pandemic. We got to keep going the right direction. So thank you again for being here today. Now, if you're able, please rise. Color Sergeant, prepare to march off the colors.
Color party mark, turn. Color party halt. Color party left, turn. Pick up color.
Sorry about that. I lost my cue here. Please march off the colors.
Color party carry, color. Color party right, turn. Color party quick, mark.
Thank you. Merci. Miigwech. See you next year.